Just thought I'd take you through some of the tools that I'll be using for this job going forward. So, essentially crankshaft lock. So I think the idea is you get this to essentially top dead center, and this will hold the crankshaft in place. Top's dead center gauge and the corresponding extension tool. We'll go into cylinder 1. I've got the cam locks here. B2, B1. I have to figure out where they go. Shouldn't be too difficult. Then I've got tension tools for when I'm putting it all back together. Probably the other thing I should mention is just got extended bolts. Okay, I've just gone through here and disconnected the, not sure if you can see it, just disconnected the ground on there. Made sure the park brake was well and truly up, because I've now lifted the car. Now, one of the problems is I don't have the trolley jack that fits under this car because it's quite low. It's about 10 centimeters. And even the jack out of my wife's car didn't quite fit underneath, so I had to ramp up the car, which is what I did there. And basically jack it up. Now, I've got two jacks here, just I don't want to wreck the seams on here. So that's kind of why I'm using two, just to sort of even the load a bit. That one's missing a seam altogether, the black one. The blue one's just kind of on it, just more as a support. I've got the jack in place, not sure if you can see that, just under there. So I'm just ready to lower that down now, and hopefully it sits on the jack nice and safely. Okay, so now I have got the auxiliary belts off, and just about to loosen, or I've just started to loosen the tensioner just up there. I'm not sure if you can quite see it, just in there. So just got through with one of these spanners to loosen it, just because you won't get a socket wrench in there. So I've just loosened that slightly now, and I'm just about to remove it. Almost there. There it is. Okay, now time to pull the cam belt cover from the top. I still got the bolts to take off down the bottom, but I can get the top off at this stage. Hopefully I can get the top off. I'm sure there's a very easy way to do this. Hey, cam belt cover is off, and now it's time to have a look at the cam belt. Okay, this cam belt has been in place for, I believe, about 11 years, so it's well past its use by date. It hasn't done a great deal of Ks, but as I said, just well and truly past its time. So yeah. Now I noticed a bit of one of the bolts back there was oily, so I might have a look and see if I can't figure out what that is as well while I'm here. Okay, next is to remove the that cover just there. So I believe there's some timing marks on there, but I've got the tools to get me to top dead center, so I'll be using those. But next step is to remove the auxiliary tensioner, which is just there, and then remove this. So let's jump onto that. Now, next to remove this, need to remove those 4 bolts in there. What I've got here is I actually went out and got the proper ribe pieces. So start with a 9. No, it's going to be an 8. Yep, that's going to be an 8 in there. Okay, so now I'm going to use my ratchet set to remove that. One of these seems to be a bit stubborn, so you'll have to try something else. Okay, I started to use the wrench, but then I realised the whole flywheel's turning. So what I basically ended up doing is just tapping with a hammer, and then that seemed to have done the job, and it all loosened up. Time to get the it off. Hey. Ooh, it's off. And now just to get the last of the screws off. So it looks as if I can see 3. I'm sure there's a 4th one hidden. So that's 1, 2, 3. And there might be a 4th one around the corner. Let's get these first. Yeah, so to help manage where all the bolts go on the cam covers, I've just basically put this together, which kind of just shows all the positions. So it's far from perfect, but at least when I go put them back, it'll give me a rough guide as to, well, give me a guide as to where they actually go in order of the cam belt on the cam cover. Probably just also worth noting that there was only 3 on the bottom as well, not 4, like I suspected. So that came off pretty easy. Okay, next thing, now that all the belts, the covers have been taken off, now it's time to take off the cam cover. So we'll get started on that. Yeah, these nuts are basically fixed inside, so they can't come out, which is great. I'll get that cleaned up later. Okay, I've gone through and removed 1, 2, 3, 4 to remove the coil packs. Just moving all these cables out of the way. again, just having a good look here. Looks as if there's some cables that need to be removed down here as well. That'll all connect through. Okay. Okay, so I've managed to, as you can see, I've moved all the cables out, disconnected the air conditioning unit, undid all the plugs, removed all the cables there. Watch out, there's an earth there. I believe that goes, I'll go back and double check, but I believe it goes onto one of those bolts there. And just gently pried this out. There is got a bit of an issue down here. I'm not sure we can see that, but it looks as if there's some form of liquid inside there, which is not a good sign. So anyway, let's investigate that and find out what's going on. The rest all look pretty dry. Okay, what I'm going to do, I don't want to open up the cylinder, just take spark plugs off and have all that water go into the cylinder head, onto the cylinder. So I'm going to try and dry it up as best as I possibly can. Just grab some absorbent towel, and then we'll give that a go. Let's see if I can start wicking some of this out. Yeah, it's starting to come out. Okay, I'm just getting to the stage now that they're drying up. Just sticking a screwdriver down there. Try and get as much of that water out of there as possible. I think there's still a little bit more gunk and dirt in that one, but we'll get to it. Okay, so just removing these bolts look as if they stay in to the top of the cam cover as well. So basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So let's give this a go. I think I might have counted all this twice, but let's give this a go. Take it off. I've left the last 2 spark plugs in there because I don't want to get any dirt in the cylinder, and I'm worried there's still dirt in there. So, but removing this should give you better access to it. Last clip I missed. Just here. And this looks like something else still connected. Oh, the gasket. All right. Let's remove this. Okay, plan at the moment is to remove the spark plugs. So what I've basically done is I've put some WD-40 down there to try and loosen up the dirt and the rust that's down there. And I hit it with a bar a little bit early, just to sort of agitate it a little bit, in the hope that they'll come out cleanly. But before I do that, I need to get all the liquid out and try and get as much of the dirt, in fact all the dirt out, before I start to release the spark plug. So that's what I'm going to give a go now. much cleaner. Okay, now I'm going to try and just get some of that residue out that's in there. I've got it, it's much cleaner than it was, but just basically going to try and get some of that residue out with some compressed air. So we can blow some of it out before I give it another clean. Starting to get a bit cleaner. Okay, I think I've got this to a stage that's about as dry and as clean as I'm going to be able to get it. So I think the next thing now is to remove the spark plugs. Now, what I'm a bit wary about is that these things are rusted and stuck, and the last thing I want to do is break that spark plug off. So I'm going to take it pretty easy in getting this off. Here goes nothing. That one feels like it's released. This was the easier one. The one with less dirt in it. Oh, it's a bit grimy down there, which I might have to try and clean up without getting into the cylinder. That muck. Right, now for the next one. This is the one that's stuck in. Oh, yeah. Just don't be careful about forcing it too much. Feel much tighter. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap it. Okay. I think I've got it. All right, time to take it out. Oh, wow. No, oh, here we go. I think I just picked up some dirt on the way. All right, it's out. Once again, not quite as clean as the rest, but we can give that a bit of a clean up. Just thought I'd have a bit of a look at this spark plug. So this was the one that came out, one that had less water in it. This is the one that came out that was broken. I'm pretty sure I potentially broke that when I was tapping it from the top. Just trying to give it a bit of a knock to soften up the metal. Well, not to soften up the metal, but to essentially just break the bind. So I think that's the reason why it's broken, although it's a bit hard to tell. The car was running rough, although I haven't driven it very much at all since I purchased it. But as I said, I've got a sneaking suspicion that cylinder 1 may not have been firing correctly. No errors on the ECU or check error lights or anything. But as I said, we'll see what happens when I start it up again. I'll try and get the OBD2 connection up and running to see if I can see if there's any errors previously. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these off to get the cam locks on. So it's the third one in from the left on top and the third one from the back. I'm just going to get some photos of these before I do that. Just having a quick look. You can see it's got a marking on it. Right, you might be able to see that. Just see that in the camera. It's got a marking on there. And same thing with that one. Looks like a C10. And that one looks like it says C, I think 15. But you just want to get these back into the same order. Ball number 2. As with everything, I'm just going to check to make sure they are the same length. I'm sure they are. And they are. Stubborn little thing. Just gonna wiggle this till it comes loose. Here we go. Came off like that. Much easier. Came off like that. Okay, just when I get these mixed up, I've put them essentially end to end in here, wrap them up tight, windscreen, bumper there, so that way they'll go back in the right way. Alright, I haven't taken the balance belt off yet. I want to get the whole thing top dead center and take some photos just to make sure everything's sort of timed correctly. So what I'm using is my tool here. It's going to take a while, but the idea is I put the tool on, essentially just rotate, screw these down a little bit better, I don't want to damage your thread on them. And then just rotate till I get to top dead center. It'll take a while, but I think it's probably going to be the easiest way to get the thing to top dead center with the balance belt on. I think we're starting to get close to top dead center, so I'm going to put this in. Screw it all the way down. And pop this in. All right. That's essentially what I'm aiming for. Quite a way off at the moment. All right, we're getting very close now. That's very close there. That is very close there. I would have to say I'm pretty close to top dead center here. So I think for me at the moment, all I want to do is basically get some close enough, get lots of photos of where everything is. There is a timing mark. Once again, I'm not sure if you can see it. Just there, which is roughly the right area. Those cams should be facing towards the back. I've been under the car, so I haven't been able to see if that is at top dead center here, but I think it's close enough for the moment. Not to set it, but just at least get the photos and document kind of where everything is, especially for the balance belt more than anything else. Okay, I'm more or less hitting that point of no return from a timing perspective. Next step is now to loosen that nut behind there. That'll loosen the balance belt. They'll be able to get the belt off, then I can get proper top dead center. Okay, I undid the balance belt tensioner. You can sort of see where it was in there. Now the objective is to take off this. That way then I can start cranking it to get to top dead center. Okay, now to find top dead center with one of these gauges, you essentially turn this wheel here when you think you found it, or when you've got sort of a rough idea of where it is. So I've gone around, kind of got it at top dead center, which is where it is. It's starting to now go backwards, and you'll see what I mean in a second. So as I slightly just move this, you'll see the needle going anti-clockwise. Hopefully you can see that in the camera. So I'm going to bring it all the way back around. And just keeping an eye on that cam there, because I know it's going to be roughly sort of vertical, and I should start seeing that move when it starts to get roughly vertical. Here we go, starting to move. In fact, jump quite a bit. Moving it slightly, you can see the needle moving. Here we go. I think this is the last one. Yeah, you can see it's slowing right down. That's top dead center. Ever so slightly out. It was actually about there. So I'm going to go around again. You'll see it's going backwards. And then we'll see how close our cams were, or how timing was on it. Okay. So I'm see how far off we are. Actually, not that bad actually at all. For that one, the exhaust. Oh, pretty good. I think it's just about spot on. Time to get these bolts in. Don't want to have these too tight. I think timing's pretty much spot on. Now that I have top heads in, I want to lock the crank in place. So I have this tool here to lock it into place. This one comes from Totally Alpha, and the way this one works is you need to put the balance belt back on the balance belt, but the balance shaft on, and then with the screws, screw it back in, and then lock it into where the tensioner went. So let's get all that lined up and put in. Oh well, it's not going anywhere. In an ideal world, that would actually push up against here, but it's just not. I'm not sure why. Anyway, I think either way, I think it's going to be moving the crank anyway. Okay, so next step was just to release the cam belt tensioner, which is just through there. So it's pretty easy to loosen up. Because I have because I've got the crank lock in place, unfortunately it's locked the belt in, so I'll need to take the crank lock off before I can get the belt off. Then from there, next part is to loosen the intake pulley, and then the exhaust pulley as well. Alright, now it's time to move the inlet cam pulley. So it's just these 4 bolts here. Yeah, we've come across an issue, and that is the ride bit, unfortunately, doesn't leave any space for the spanner head, which means I can't get it in at the moment. So I'm going to have to come up with a bit of a solution on how to loosen that, and probably even more will be a bit of an issue when I actually go to tighten it up to torque it up, which is probably a bit of a challenge, but we'll work through that. Alright, just to try and get this out for the moment, I'm just going to essentially use the hole through here and a long Allen key to just try and get it off at the moment. Yep, perfect. Still leaving with the problem that I'm going to get it back in and torque it up, but it's a problem for another day. Alright, now to remove the exhaust cam pulley. So what I've basically got is one of these pulley holders, and I've got, I think it was a 18 that was in there. Let's just double check that. Yeah, 18 that's in there. So what we're going to basically do is get an extra set of hands here to help. I'm going to hold this in place so it doesn't move, and then move the bolt, and hopefully it breaks, and not breaks, but hopefully it comes off. See how we go. So just what I've done here, I've just loosened, because I don't want to damage the cam lock. So basically loosen that a little bit. I'm just going to keep an eye on it just to make sure we don't move it too much. We've already given this a bit of a go. It's on hard. We're going to give it another crack. Okay, just want to sort of explain kind of what we did to get rid of, or to get this pulley, the exhaust pulley loose, because it was really, really difficult. We didn't have enough leverage to remove it using the standard wrench, so we had to get essentially a breaker bar with a six-sided socket just to really get a good grip of the bolt that was in there, along with the pulley tool. And on top of that, also used some WD-40 penetrating oil on the bolt. And then on top of that, just gave the bolt a tap with the hammer. I also loosened the cam. Locking tool, just because once again I just didn't want to damage those or try and thread it, because I knew it was going to probably wiggle slightly. So the next step is to essentially just align this cam again and get it back into proper timing, and then tighten down the cam lock, which I'll do now. I've now got that. Looks as if it's pretty much perfect, so I'll lock those down now. Okay, now to get the variator off, we need to remove the bearing caps. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, plus of course the cam lock that's already on there. And the idea with this is just to remove them slowly. These are going to be under tension just due to the it's just due to the valves underneath and the springs. So as I said, just slowly is the way to go with these. Now it's time to start loosening bearing caps and also the cap end as well. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts there, plus an Allen key there. So I'm going to start loosening these very evenly. A bit torque on them. I'm going to remove this completely. Now I've marked how all these bearing caps go in. So I'm just taking note of all the indicating marks on there. And I've essentially just drawn them up there, so that way I know which way they all go back in. Okay, I'm going to see if I can't just gently get rid of this cap end. After some light tapping, managed to get it off. So that's basically it there. Once again, I think there's some liners in here. I'm just careful not to damage those. Next on to the variator. Loose, 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 loose. not sure if you can see that, I'm just laying them out basically. And now for the cam to come out. There we are. Wow, heavy. There's a cam with a variator. Here we go. Okay, here's the cam out with the variator in there. So what I do now is I'll use my cam pulley tool. Try not to use the threaded ones in there. I'm not sure if you can see that on camera. I'm trying to use the unthreaded ones with the pulley tool, put it in a vise, and try and remove this and take it off. And once we've done that, we can start doing the rebuild on it. Okay, I've got the variator set up in a vise. I don't know how well this is going to go. I'm not sure. I don't think there's going to be enough grip on it. But essentially, just wrapped it up in the old auxiliary belt, just so not to damage the cam lobes. But anyway, let's give this a go. See if we can get it off. Okay. After quite a bit trying to get the variator off the cam, it just will not budge. I've tried everything from penetrating oil to tapping it to everything. So much so that ended up bending this on the pulleys. That's after I cut them down to try and make them a little bit stronger. But anyway, so I've resorted to compressing the whole cam. And I've just got the clip off, and so I'm just about to release this now. Let's see how we go. So because I don't want everything to go everywhere, and I know this is probably going to end up releasing with a bit of compression, I'm just going to wrap everything. Stop springs flying everywhere. Here we go. Okay, that seems to have released. Okay. Feels like it's stuck. Has not released any further than there. I've just given it a gentle tap with this, covered it up, and I've managed to get it apart. Okay. There we are. Variator has now been opened. It looks fairly clean in there, I think. But like I said, there's a bit of oil and obviously stuff in there. But we'll give this a bit of a look over and got the kit, so we're ready to replace all the bits and pieces inside it. Okay, I've managed to clean pretty much most of this up now that I've removed it. Once again, the clip's still on there. I'm just letting this soak a little bit and just get rid of some of that rust deposit on there and some of that dirt on there. Then I'll give this a bit of a clean. I've got the repair kit. The repair kit's just here. I'm just going to let this sort of sit overnight just to get rid of some of this for its final clean before I put it all together tomorrow. Okay, now to put the variator back together. So I've got my new washer, new spring still in the bag here, but essentially I've pulled everything out here. So this one here goes with the two tapered edges touching each other. I'm sure you can see that. Essentially like that. That's the way they're going to go in. Just going to drop that in. Make sure it goes in the right way. one in, and same thing for the other one here. So those in. This goes tapered edge down into here. Next is to get these two pieces onto these splines, just making sure that they're lined up. So that's an example of how they're not lined up, and I was having a good play, and it seems to be about every 3 shifts that I'll line up. So test my theory. 1, actually 1, 2, and the third one should line up. There, lines up perfectly. And now this can go straight over. Okay. Now they're all in lined up, although that's just popped off down there. Just making sure they all line up. Which they do. New spring goes on. And now this gets compressed in. Which I'll now have to use my vise to do. Okay. All right, so after compressing it back with this, wasn't too hard actually, just basically pushed into there, started compressing it, put the clip back in, and sort of away I went. Everything looks like it's all seated. Everything looks like it's all seated pretty well in there, which is good. The next step is just to test it to make sure it's all working. So I'm going to run some compressed air through there. Let's see what it does. So I'm going to block off these holes, one there, and one there, and push air through here. Not sure if you can see that, but it's spinning. Not sure if you can see that in the camera, but basically as I blocked off that hole there with my finger, ran compressed air through here, and it did, you could see it and feel the whole thing sort of jolt as this shifted, which is good, all working, fantastic. Now that the Variator is back together, it's time to start cleaning up the head here. So I want to get all that grease taken off, get it all nice and clean as possible, ready for the new seals to go on over there. Ready for the new seals to go on here. And then we're just going to put a bit of gasket to get this back on. But now clean up some of this area around here, all around there, and so on. Just anything you do, just try not to scratch it. And B, just try and push stuff away, not too hard. Just try and push stuff away from the inside the engine. Just fitting the bearing caps on. Of number 2 is the bearing cap that sets the floating point for the actual cam itself. So I've just basically put the 1, 3, 4 and 5 on very, very loosely, just to get them down, but then sort of tightened up too a little bit, just hand tight really, just to get the floating point right, and it looks about right. So I can continue, just torque these down, because I said there's a bit of tension, because there's some springs that are loaded on I think on these back lobes. So I said I just have to torque those down gently, just and evenly. Just making sure also that, once again, same as when you set the timing, that the first lobes are actually pointing towards the rear of the car. Now I just want to get the lock back into place. To replace bearing cap 3. So to do that, just got to try and get top dead center again. So I'm just going to put the flywheel back on, just temporarily for the moment. Put a couple bolts in there just so I can move it around. Just going to torque up all the bearing caps. Done. Just they're set to, I think I've got them set to about 16 newton meters or 15 newton meters. Done. Not too tight. Just going to apply a small bead. I think that's probably a bit too small though. just hand tighten. I'll give this an hour and tighten down. In the meantime, I'm just going to clean up all these areas where I put a bit too much. Let that sit for about an hour before I torque it up. Okay, just getting the oil seals back in. So the exhaust seal is pretty easy. Just use a large socket just around there and just push it in. The inlet cam is proving a little bit more difficult, but at the moment I'm just tapping it in using the old oil seal piece of wood and just gently coaxing it into its place. Okay, so it's time to put the idler and the tensioner back on. So I've got the new one just in here ready to go. So yeah, I've also just cleaned up inside there. Sort of where it goes in there. You can see there's a little notch in there. I'm not sure you can see that where my finger is. Essentially that gets basically put onto that there. That kind of goes over the bolt and in there. That's it, locked in. Now I'll get this bolt tightened. Ready for install. And I'll do the same thing now with the idler as well. That just goes just right next to it in that hole there. Just going to mark where the center of the bolt is on here, so that way I know. There's a little bit of play in here. Don't know if you can see that, but there's a little bit of play on this. And you can probably just see inside there, there's the holes, but I just want to line that up so that way I know where the center of the holes is. Next, let's get exhaust cam on. Once again, I'm just putting these on very loosely. This is keyed, so I'm just gonna make sure I get it in the right place. Once again, just my marker there. With that marker there, I can sort of tell where it is in the center. I know that it needs to line up the middle of the bolt. When I first took these off, it was pretty much wound all the way back there. So I think this is much better position. In fact, it should actually be around there. I'll Loctite these when I torque them up. For the moment, I just want to get them on. Okay, I've managed to get the cam belt on. It looks okay. I mean, these are still loose, so there's still a bit of a degree of adjustment to happen here. Next thing is to essentially tighten up the tension down there. So I'll give that a go now. Okay, I've just finished tightening the inlet pulley, just there. I'm about to start, and I've just put a marker on here because I just want to see if it moves at all, so just put a couple dots on there. So next is to tighten this. Once again, I'm not tightening these full tension. I've tightened up the tension about there as well. Once again, not to full tension. And the idea now is to get everything just tight enough just to test. So I'm going to run this through a couple cycles once I remove the cam locks as well. So let me just tighten that up, and then we'll get rid of the cam locks and take it for a spin. Just got this set to about 50 newton meters just to get started. And the good news is the top dead center hasn't changed, which is good. The bad news is I've set that to 50 and I've got to get to 110. I haven't even clicked over 50 yet, so it's going to be a tough job with just one set of hands. I might have to get someone to help me with this one. I think that's going to be okay for the sake of testing. That's one rotation. About to go for second. That's top dead center. Right, let's check it against the cam locks. Moment of truth. B1. No, it's out, slightly out. B2. Actually, inlet looks good. Exhaust looks slightly out. Let's go right again. Alright, so the inlet cam is pretty much spot on. So it's the light's probably a little bit. You can actually see it's pretty good. Having said that, the exhaust is not quite right yet. So what I've done is I loosened up this this cam pulley here. It's now at top dead center as well. Just ignore that 0. That's top dead center. It keeps changing every time I do it, but that's where the needle stopped. What I'm basically going to do here is essentially rotate it forward until this cam lines up with the cam lock. Then essentially lock that in. Then reverse it back to TDC ever so slightly, even though you're not supposed to reverse these. I can't see any other way of doing these minute adjustments. And then basically lock that in and see where we go from there. All right, that is pretty much exactly where we want it. Loosen this. Just want this moving fairly freely. Lock down the cam. Get it back to TDC. It's pretty much TDC right there. Tighten up this bolt. Move the cam lock. And test again. It's pretty much TDC right there. Let's have a look. Much better. Perfect. I think we are good. That is good. We are in time. Okay, now I'm going to loosen these up. You would have remembered earlier saying that I was going to have an issue with this bottom one. Yeah, unfortunately, my only solution at the moment is going to be to use a Torx 40 instead of the Ribe. So these don't have to be torqued up too much, so we should be okay. But normally, as I like to prefer to use a Ribe. But we'll do these one at a time. Torque them up. Just a cross pattern. Probably a bit too much Loctite on that, but anyway. Yep, 12 Newton meters. I'm just going to set this one to 12 Newton meters. It's one. Done. So just before I torque everything, last thing to torque is going to be the tensioner. I've decided I'm going to take off the bolt and put some thread lock on it just in case. So what I've done is I've stuck the tool in there just to hold it in place because it's a bit of a pain to get it in. So I've popped the bolt out. The tool's stuck in there at the moment. You can probably just sort of see it in there. I'll get some thread lock on that, get it readjusted to where it's supposed to be in the center of that hole, and torque it up. As I mentioned earlier, once again, I'm not sure if you can see down there, but I just found it much easier to actually get to adjust this when it had when it was quite tight, or tight enough to essentially hold its position once I adjusted it with the tool. I'm not very good doing this one with one hand, so I'm just going to tighten this up. Put a little bit of tension on it before I get the tool, go underneath, and then adjust it to where it needs to be. Okay. after I'd sort of tightened everything up, thought I was pretty much done. I had a quick look under here, and I noticed that the indicator for the tensioner was out. It's back in position now. So basically, after loosening essentially the two cam pulleys again, I retightened the tensioner, and I tightened it while they were loose to its proper torque setting. Once again, I think it was about 27 newton meters. Just double check that though. Once I tightened that, then went through, realigned the inlet and exhaust cams. I've just finished tightening the exhaust cam, gave it a spin, and it is pretty much smack bang in the center of the pin there. I think you can probably just see that. I think you can see that arrow. The only thing left to do now is to tighten up the and torque down the inlet pulleys, and I'll do that now. Putting a lot of oil on that cam. Just spread it around a bit. Let's get the cam lock on and see. It's all been cleaned up underneath there. I can see oil coming out. So, probably a little bit more towards the back than the front. But just get it on there, and let's take it off and see what we get. Sure you can see that. But look, yeah, there's quite a bit of oil there, and oil on there as well. So look, yeah, as much as it might not look, especially towards that front area, as much as it might not look, especially towards that front area, that it's 100% centered. I believe it is. Might be just the edge or the lighting. I think it's as close as we're going to get it. It's time to torque it up. All right, I've just rotated it, what's hopefully for the last time. That is pretty much where it was right at the start, so right in the pin, it's good. Let's check these cam locks. That is pretty much on top dead center. It moves as it always has, but that's where the needle was stopping. That is perfect. That one, I think we've established, is about as perfect as it is going to be. So we are good. I think it's time to put the cam locks on now, get those torqued up, and I think pretty much the time belt's done. Okay, so now time to get the balance pulley on. Essentially, there's a little notch right there, which lines up with the notch right there. So the idea is to essentially line those up and lock them in. I gave this a good clean a little bit earlier, so hopefully it just goes on nicely. and locks in, you start getting some bolts in. To get back to top dead center, once you get the pulley on, you don't need to have this on. It's just the one underneath it. Once you get this on, you can't get the I couldn't get my breaker bar back in, and this breaker bar has been absolutely great to get that minute detail on top dead center. So basically, once you do get this the pulley on, you no longer have access to the bolt. So basically, what you need to do, or what I've basically done, is put it in fifth gear. Used essentially a stick on the spokes here till I've rotated the cylinder to top dead center. That's how I did it. Next step is to line up the marker that is on the balance shaft. You can just make out there's a line right kind of there. There's a bit of a notch right where my finger is as well. Same thing with the one down the bottom. There's a little marker just against the back there, so you can just line that up. Same thing down there. You get a much better view from down the bottom with that one. That one's perfectly lined up. I'm going to double check that one. Then I'll start putting the belt on. Okay, I managed to get the balance belt on. Started at that top corner there, ran it around the pulley, and then the second balance belt. And I did most of it from underneath. That way, as I saw that first balance belt moving as I tried to tension it, I could loosen up or take the belt off that second pulley and spin it back the opposite direction. Don't worry about the timing marks, they're not right, although that looks like it's 2 teeth off, and that looks like it's 2 teeth off. So yeah, they pretty much line up, which is good. Yeah, that was lucky. But otherwise, yeah. Then the last thing you do is just pull it over the crank down the bottom. So yeah, got that on. Now it's time to tension it. Okay, I've used a tension tool to tension up the balance belt. You can see just there. You can see just there that there's a mark right there, and that's supposed to be facing here. It's not spot right in the middle of that mark. It's kind of to the top end, but as I said, that's pretty straight. So it's the right tension. Now time to go in the back and tighten it up. Okay, did one last rotation around here. Got the car to top dead center. Once again, it's in fifth gear. Got the car to top dead center. One final check. Let's start down here. And that pin there should be in the middle of that hole, and it's very, very close to being in the middle of that hole. In fact, it is in the middle of that hole. While we're here, that pin there should be pointing towards there, which it is. Car's at top dead center, which it is. Cam locks. Perfect. Perfect. I think we're good. It's time to talk it all up, and I think that's it. Put those cam locks on. Put those cam caps on for the last time. Then auxiliary belt, and then we're ready to go. Okay, everything's now all tightened up. Time to get the auxiliary pulley on. I've just refitted the auxiliary
pulley there, or sorry, idler, and I'm just about to refit the new auxiliary tensioner. I'll do that now.
Okay, before the gasket goes on, I'm going to do the gasket on the cam cover shortly, but just want to get all of this cleaned up. Next thing to do is to fit the auxiliary belt. So that's essentially a diagram of how it goes. I've installed the tensioner just there, so now I'm just going to try and wrap it around. Just following that diagram. I've managed to order the wrong cam gasket. It looks like the one that I ordered was for the alloy head, which is essentially a different gasket. So the one for the plastic rock cover is actually much thicker. So now the problem is that I need to get this car up and running this weekend, at the very least for testing. And as I said, it's a Saturday. I can't source rocket cover gasket today. So what I'm going to do for the sake of testing is just get this cleaned up as best I possibly can, and that'll buy me some time. I'll get this one back on, cleaned up. It's actually in pretty good nick. Like it's very, very rubbery still. It doesn't look like there's any damage to it at all. So yeah, it looks like it's pretty good. A new one. I don't think it's going to be that much different to what this is. Still needs a bit of a clean, which I'm just working through at the moment. But otherwise, it seems to be cleaning up okay. But haven't come across any damage yet. But I'm going to end up using this for the time being. Cam cover's ready to go on. I've just dabbed a little bit of silicone on the corner there, just along the top there as well, just because there was some just minus surface cracking on there. And then just a dab on that corner as well. So hopefully that'll help that seal. The rest has all been cleaned up, everywhere else. So cam cover's now ready to go on. I've also pushed all through the metal holes through the grommets there as well, all the way through. These are all set to 9 Newton meters. Just want to get down as flat as possible, or as even as possible. Okay, new spark plugs for the car, so time to put those in. Spark plugs are all in. Just connecting up. I've put the ignition coils back in as well. Once again, fairly easy. I cleaned all those up. Reconnected the alternator. I forgot to put the ground on, which I'll just do now. Before I do that, got a couple of hoses to do on here. Get those tightened up.
just one thing worth mentioning here is these clips here can be done with a pair of pliers. It's actually not as difficult as they look. I'll see if I can't show you that in a second. Grab it kind of by the back there. Of course, this cable's going to be in the way. Grab that by the back there, and just essentially push them together. As usual, this one's proving a little bit harder to do. Done.
Okay, after about 2 weeks of work, and it's probably worth mentioning that that I'm no mechanic by any stretch of imagination. Everything I've basically done has just been from watching other videos, reading a lot, and trying to figure out how to do it. So I've got to a stage now that I've ended up pulling the engine apart. This is by far the biggest mechanical job I've ever done. And so the next few minutes are going to result in me either being very, very happy or very, very sad. So I said, fingers crossed, it starts. Here goes.
It's making a bit of a tapping noise, which seems to kind of be going away now. Otherwise, it seems to be running. Of course, this is working. Okay. Time to get the belt covers back on and go from there.